Hopefully it works. Hopefully. All right. As far as I know, I am streaming. I got this sort of silly hat on. I apologize. Yeah, if you guys are watching, let me just make sure. Yo, yo, yo. Yeah, so I was watching a friend's YouTube and giving him some tips or ideas on some of the stuff he was doing. And I'm realizing a lot of people, we both said this, a lot of people are not entirely sure about certain things in Moho. Things like animated layer order, pop out the style panel, you know, separating it out like I've got mine here. Line boil issues, default interpolation types and whatnot for the timeline. I'm going to have to refresh myself on that one in particular. Point animation, you know, when to use that, importing a Moho object, also stuff like setting up a bone layer. You know, I have this stuff in a lot of other videos, but some of it is kind of buried in like an hour and a half long video or a third, you know, some of my other videos might touch on it, but I'm assuming some of this is stuff that people know. Yeah, I know there's an echo. I got it. You hear it on the live over there or just from my system? From your system. Oh yeah. So yeah, my mixer once in a while decides to have output when it's not supposed to, and I don't know why. So just ignore it if you hear it. Sorry about that. Anyway, and it might be because of that issue there. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, maybe. Anyway, sorry guys. So with what's up, Greg? Yeah, I mean, when and how to use bone layers and stuff like that. Like I said, I have it in a lot of my videos, but yeah, I wouldn't want to go and necessarily watch an hour and a half long video or even a 30-minute video or whatever. I want to find the exact little specific thing. So if you guys are watching and want to ask me specifics, I can go through and say, oh yeah, that's done like this. Some of this stuff I wrote down, depending upon who's watching. Animate layer order. We'll just start with that one. So if you have multiple layers, and this is just a quickie, let's say I have a circle on this one, we create another vector layer. God, I hate that keeps coming on. Another vector layer here, and this is going to be, you know, and yes, you normally would set this up in your style panel. We'll deal with that in a minute. With that one selected, I'm just going to change its color by clicking on the select shape tool, sorry. And coming over here and changing its color after the fact. So there we go. So we have these two shapes. One of the things we talked about, it's easy to forget, well, how do I change the layer order of this within, well, these are two separate layers. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to confuse myself. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let me slow down. So right here, you have two different layers. You want to be able to animate the order of these, right? So basically, if you were, say, on any frame other than frame 0, you're going to be, let's say, frame 3, 5, whatever I'm on, and you want to change the order of these guys. You could just come over here and drag these, but it won't let you do that. It won't make a keyframe for that. So what you end up doing is just double-clicking one of these layers to bring up your little menu here. You'll come into, where is it at? Here, my bad. Am I even looking in the right spot? I might be being stupid about this. Right here, is it at? I just had it. I may be looking in the wrong spot. Sorry, guys. 1 second. But there is why can't I find it now? Am I looking in the wrong spot? I'm an idiot. Right clicking on this, we can go to quick settings. I believe it's in here. No, it is not. Why am I not being able to find this? Lord, I feel like an idiot. It should be right where I was at. I'll just double click back in here again and look here. There's an animate layer order button, and I don't know why I can't find it today. This is completely unprepared, so I apologize. Of course, I haven't. Is it animated shape order in here now? They changed the name of it. I don't believe so, but we can try it, but I don't believe that's it. But anyway, what you're going to be doing is trying to change the order of these layers, and normally it will give you a keyframe, so that's not working. Why don't I know where this is at? Maybe, Greg, you need to tell me. So what I want to do is be able to animate the order of these layers. I don't know why I'm not finding this all of a sudden. It's not in preferences, I don't believe. It may be, but no. That should be within the layers. It should be within our project here. I'm going to double click on this one again and just check. Why can't I find it? Okay, well, I'm here doing these great tips and I don't even know them myself. Where is this? This should be right where I was looking. It's not here. That's not the one we want. Okay. Well, for some reason, I'm completely losing my mind here. Yeah, why isn't that there? I thought it was right in here. I'm a lot of help today, folks. It's animate layer order. Why can't I find it? View? No, because this is something... Okay, I feel stupid right now. Let me see. I don't know if I've lost my mind or what. Yeah, I can't find it all of a sudden. It should be in the layer settings. And I don't believe you have to, I've got an icon here that shows multiple layers, but I don't know why. Because normally, like I said, it's right in here and you just click a checkbox. And I'm not finding it, and it's not this one. It's not shape order, it's literally animated layer order. And you just select it, and it will allow you to change the layer of your orders over time. Why is that not on? It's a super important thing, and if they've removed it, it's going to ruin everything, because this is how you get things to change from the back to the front while you're turning your figure. I have to be just missing it, because that makes no sense. Wow, I don't know where it is. I will be completely honest with you. I'm going to select the shape and maybe try it that way, but it makes no sense. Why in the world would this not be here? Yeah, it needs to be part of the actual layer settings, all of the layers. I'm really confused by this. Got animated effects, but that's not it. It's literally called animate layer order. I do not see it. I'm actually pretty confused by this. It's not animate shape order. It's on the main page normally. Maybe they have it to where you have to put it in a group first. I am not sure. That's a little disturbing. I feel like I'm in a dream right now. Let me put these in a group. Right click these and group with selection. I have to be on frame 0 for that. Let me just come back here and do it again. Okay, and now I'm going to check the group, and it might be because it has to be in a group. I don't believe so, but that's a possibility. Depth sort, that's what it is. So if they're in a group, now you can animate the layer order. So right here, sort layers by depth, but right here, enable animated layer order. So you have to put them in a group, or they have to be in a group. And the reason why I forgot about this, because normally they are in my bone layer. So they are in a group, and then you can change their layer order within the group. Okay, so you turn that on now. You click apply or okay. Now when you move, like I say, this one's on top of that one, we'll set it like so, and you can move this one down below the other one at that point. Why aren't they moving? I don't know, but I'm starting. There we go. And that's supposed to create a keyframe. And you move down here and you move it back up. It's going to give you a keyframe on. I'm trying to remember where you find the stupid keyframes, the visibility of the keyframes. It is going to work. The keyframes usually show up in the track. I'm not seeing the track, but you can see how that changes now. I don't see the track. Maybe it's on the layer. Yeah, it's on the layer. Duh. The group, I mean. So now you can see it shows you those keyframes. You can change where those shift over. See, back and forward. A little confusing even for me, but that is different because I forgot about the group thing. So yes, thank you, Greg. Saw that. Okay, so the next thing that we were talking about was the style panel. Just real quick, if you normally would have your style panel over here locked in, and you just want to pop that out. I believe in window you can turn into your docking here, and for the style you just undock that by turning that checkbox off. It does a couple things. For one, it will allow your you to have a lot more room over here for your layers and whatnot. But also, I found out there's a bug, and it's been in Moho forever, that if your style panel is docked, you'll actually start getting a lot of these weird graphic kind of errors happening, which I used to have them all the time, and I have only had them once or twice when I have like 400 layers or something. They start to get a little buggy. But not having that docked, they said, fixes that error mostly. I don't know why they haven't fixed that, because it just seems like a basic interface problem, but apparently it's just some kind of an issue that's been there forever. So anyway, that's how you'd fix that problem. Let me see. I got a little discombobulated, freaking out of the fact that I couldn't find how to change that layer order, but yes, they have to be in a group. Thank gosh I figured that out, because right now my brain is buzzing. All right, so line boil. I don't remember what question you were asking me specifically about it. It was about it, if you turn it to 0, I think it was, you want to be able to have line boil, but only when the character moves, let's say. Let's test this here real quick. I'm going to go into my layer 1 here. I'm going to throw a stroke on that by selecting my shape. I'm going to go in here and turn stroke. And let's just make that thicker so we can actually see it. Now, let's just say, okay, these are accidentally moving. Let's go ahead and get rid of the keyframe for that group right here. I don't care about any of this. We'll just get rid of that. So now we have this guy. It's not moving. It is the second or the first shape there, whichever one that is, layer 1. And we are going to, let's say at frame 1, just have it here. I'll just create a keyframe by wiggling it a little. And then we'll move over here, and I'm just going to make it move. Well, I don't want to make it move, but I'm going to copy that keyframe. And I'm just going to paste it into like at 1 second. So it repeats. It's just going to still be static. And then say between frame, this one and the next one, we're going to move it this way. And that should work, even though it's not moving the stroke specifically, but that should still work. And then what we want to do is come into, I believe on the style panel, select that. And that's another thing too, I get asked a lot, I might as well say it now. When you click on a point, you're only clicking that point. If you want to select all points, you don't have to drag select, you don't have to lasso it, just click on the line and it selects all of the points on that line. You'll be like, oh, thank God he told me that. So you said, and will that work with a layer movement or only bone point movement? Let's find out, because that's exactly what I was going to do here, is specifically that, move the layer, which I think I just did, right? Yep. So we move that over. Now, if you select all the points, it's essentially the same as selecting the layer, but sometimes it's different depending upon the situation. But let's just say we have moved layer 1. Of course, that's changing its... Okay, we're good. I'm getting myself confused here now. Okay, within that though, within these keyframes here, let's go ahead and turn on exactly what we said. There's 2 ways to do it. You can do this within the brush or stroke if you have a stroke, but this one does not have one. So we're going to double click on the layer, and on the vectors tab, you have this here. And you can turn on noisy outlines, which is going to give you noise on the outline like boiling. And you can set your amount of boiling when it moves and whatnot, interpolation here, but you have to turn on like animated noise so that it is animated whether it's moving or whatever. all the time, because right now we've got it like per frame. So it's on 1, it means every frame. So we're going to be noisy every frame. It's not really doing much. Oh, I don't have it on. That would explain that. And then let me just make sure that's all good to go. I don't know why it's not on the whole time. Oh, I didn't click apply. Duh. Okay, so now we should, well, I'm confusing myself. Give me a second. It's one of those days. Vectors, why is this not working? I think we may or may not have to do this on frame 0, but I'm going to do it on frame 0 just to see here. So, okay, we have it on 1 right now. We're going to apply, and I'm going to test it. So now it's working. Okay. Now, we should be able to turn it off in a certain frame, in my opinion, but I don't believe you can turn the overall off and on. We'd have to change the frame rate, but I don't know that you can keyframe that, to be honest with you. But if we go and select now the interval at 0, even though we have this noise on, it's not going to, well, it shouldn't. We got to apply. I forgot. Keep forgetting the apply button. It should not move on any other frame. Let's say if we have, I'm confusing myself. Sorry, guys. The interval should be at 0 here. We move it along. The interval here should also be at 0. I think that works in between those. No. Well, I'm also not applying yet again. Well, this must be the most frustrating video to watch. Okay. For some reason, it keeps staying at 1, and I don't know why, I'll be honest with you. Normally, you can do this. We might have to do this with the brush settings now that I think about it. Let's go back to 0. We're going to apply, and we're going to see. Okay, obviously those are not noisy here because I had those frames selected, and every part after this, while it's moving, it is. And see, this is exactly it. I don't know why it wasn't taking me sitting at 0 and applying, but now it is. So these, it's sitting still, and then when it's moving, it is vibrating, and when it's sitting still, it's not. I hope that answers your question in the most confusing way possible. Cool, right on. This also is supposed to work with the brush. So if you have a brush and you have some type of like a stroke, and you put a brush on, let's say this one here for the heck of it, you can select the line boil, and then you could put this also at 0, and it'll do the same thing, if that makes sense. So it won't boil until it's moving. And you can have both of them on at the same time. I don't know if they cancel each other out. It's something I don't really know. But hopefully that makes some sense. So you can see here it doesn't boil, and now it does when it moves, and then it doesn't when it's static. Even if you do another keyframe here, like, you know, let's just, of course, if I do any keyframe, it's going to be considered moving, but if I move anything at all, it's going to, see, you can move, and you see the boil it'll have while it's moving, and then while it's not moving, it won't. So it'll boil between these now. You can see, then it stops. Then if we, you know, try to make a keyframe of any kind there, it's going to boil between them. Oh, actually it's not. That's good. So now we can make it boil again because we're moving it, and then it's going to stop after that. So nope, because there was movement in between. My bad. But you get the idea. I'm contradicting myself, but yes, that's how that's done. Typically, I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off here, but that is what you do. Do it at frame 0, and it'll do it all the way through. It'll only move, it'll only vibrate or wiggle or boil when you have movement. So you just turn on noisy outlines, animated noise, and set it to 0. Same thing with your brush. All right, moving on. Anything else here? Let's see. We also had default interpolation types for timeline. My buddy Greg was saying, is there a way kind of to set that up to where when you create a layer, it's automatically set to a certain interpolation type or whatever? But I think he meant every time. That I don't know, but to me, it's not very hard to just change it at frame 0. Because if you change that particular one here at frame 0 to step, everything you do after that will be step on that layer. I mean, that's pretty much it. So if I go here to here, that's a step frame. So if I come, you know, it's supposed to be anyway. But see, this is not set to step. And that we just did particle animation is what these dots mean. So if those are set to smooth. When I set the beginnings to step, it's doing that on a layer basis. So if I click layer, that layer movement would be step, should be. You could see right there. And if this one isn't set to step, then change it to step. That's what I do. I mean, it seems a little, funky, but yeah, I mean, that's all I've ever done is just change this to step. But it's making a liar out of me. Of course it is. It's a live stream, and I'm saying, look at my grand tips. Just change it to step before you start animating on frame 0, and everything after that will be a step. That's the way it's supposed to work. So, all right. So, not really the best example so far. So, point animation. Yes, you can do point animation on something that has bone rigging and everything. Point animation, for those of you who may or may not know, is just when you move a point, it creates a keyframe. So I could take this on this frame here, right? It's right here. Right now it's on step, so let's go ahead and change it to smooth to make my point. I'm just going to make all these smooth real quick. It's giving me a hard time because I have 2 monitors, and the edge of this kind of gets close to the other one. Okay, so smooth. And when you move this point down here, obviously, that's going to make another keyframe. Back out, it's going to make another. That is point animation, right? So you get this kind of thing going. But if you have a rigged layer, like a bone layer or something, let's just change this guy here to a bone. We just go convert to bone. Now that's a bone layer. And we go into frame 0. And if we draw a couple of bones, just to, I'm just going to put a couple of bones in here to illustrate another point while we do this. Not to make a pun. Point animation. We have this bone, those bones on these layers. Here's point binding, just so you understand. And you can use this all along the same way as you go. You can use, like I said, the bone rigging and point animation all together. So right now, these are set up with a bone strength by default. So you got this kind of thing going, right? What I do for point animation, you can even leave this on somewhat. You don't have to turn it all the way off. But for something the way I typically work is I'll turn all this stuff off to start with. All the strength. Okay. If you move your bones now, they won't do anything to the shape. Well, they shouldn't anyway. What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? Give me a second. Well, all this is supposed to be off. They shouldn't be affecting it anyway, but I guess I'm getting a little bit there still. Let me just double check. If it makes a fool out of me, it does. Well, it's going to make a fool out of me. But I think this is mainly because I've got this second shape connected. It's bound. Let me get rid of it because that's actually going to make this a lot more difficult to understand. Also on your layers, if you can't figure out how to delete something that's over here on the layer, right click between the name and that little box and delete layer. And so here, let's go back to what we were talking about. Where's my bone layer? I'm going to use the manipulate bones tool now, and you'll see that when I move this, obviously it's going to move that, but you notice there is no deformation is what I'm getting at. Okay, it's because the bones, this is moving it because everything is rooted to that main bone, but there's no deformation because of what I was talking about. Let me clear the air, go back here. I'm going to add point animation to this because there's no strength on these bones, but you want that completely turned off when you do this. So on the bone layer, we have that bone selected we're going to use. We're going to now click on our layer within that bone layer. It's got to be that way. Right here, this special tool, that's your select bone tool. So I'm going to select the bone. Then I'm going to go over here to this guy, the bind points. I'm going to say, well, what points are bound to that bone I have selected? And right now, I'm going to say, I'm just going to use my lasso mode here and select these points and say those points. So I have to come up here and bind them now. Bind points, click. These 3 are bound to that. Right now, by default, that one was as well. But don't worry about that. We're going to go back to the bone. We're going to now select the other bone. We're going to come back to the bind points tool. And now we have to say what points are bound to that bone. So I'm going to select this point and click the bind points tool. Now this point is bound to the top bone. This one's green, this one's yellow. It's not a big contrast, so it's kind of hard to see, but the green one is here for the upper bone. The yellow one is for this the yellow ones are for this yellow bone down here. When we go to our manipulate bones tool, which is now available even in this view, we move this top one, it's going to move when you bend this top bone, those others, okay? It's moving this because this bone's moving as well. But you see this point is, or this bone is manipulating that point. If you had more, you could add more and so forth. I don't know if that's clearing anything up for you. Let's see. Depth, okay, yes. And will that work with a layer movement or only bone point? No. Layer movement can be used on top of this with it. Yeah. Okay, so listen to this then. So now if we have like the main layer, and you can use the main layer, you can use the layer we were just on. But the main layer is a bone layer, but it doesn't matter because you click on the transform layer. Once again, I'm going to reset my origin by going to set origin, and you can pick anywhere for this origin to be, because remember the origin point is what everything revolves around. So you could leave it where it's at, and then when you move your layer, it's going to revolve around that point. You can see it's revolving around this point. So if you reset that to, let's say, down here, and now you move your layer or revolve your layer, it's going to move around that point down there because that's where you moved it to. But now you can also, like I said, let's get on to frame 1 or whatever, and we're going to move the layer this way, and then on, well, I should have probably put that one farther down. Let's just put that over here. And then now you can see the point animation is working at the same time. We go here. While the point animation is working, we tilt this backward. And of course, this is going to revolve as it does it because I didn't have a prior. But you can see it all works together. Nothing screws anything up. So you can get the bones working. And now I'm going to take this bone. Right now, we just have layer animation and point animation. But now, in the middle of this, we're going to move this bone this way. And then right here, we're going to move that bone back this way. And of course, I'm screwing it up because, hang on. Just because I was shifting the bone as well, or the layer, essentially. But see, now you can do bone animation, all that at the same time. All of this can happen at exactly the same time. So you can use bone animation, layer animation, and point animation all at the same time. I hope that clears it up or makes it so difficult for you, you have no idea what to do next. But you can even come into here and go on to the layer, not just the bone layer, but now back into the layer and reanimate the points. Because you already did point animation on that. You see what I'm saying? Like maybe right through here, I'm going to move this point, in that way or whatever. You can also, so you understand, change the curvature. And that animates as well. So it moves, the curvature moves from there to there. But let's say right here, you want it curved the other way at that time. So all of this happens all at the same time with all the methods all at once. Yeah, there's no limit. I mean, this is what I love about Moho, because you could do a hand-drawn animation, frame by frame, and do this per frame even, or you can take all the layer that all of your drawing is on, or the multiple layers. Let's say you have a rib cage like you had, and you wanted to make it breathing or something like that while it's bending and walking. When you come back, you do point animation to make that breathing, or you can take two bones and do this and make it breathing, all while you're doing all your other animation. You can even add that in after the fact. So if you want to animate all of his major movements and then make him breathe later using various methods, you absolutely can do that. I hope that makes sense. All right, so now let's say I want to add something from a library, because I was asked, can you have like a library of stuff? Like if you had a skeleton or if you had a whole bunch of different, I don't know, household item, furniture or whatever. Yes, and the way you do that is to come over here to File, and you go to Import, but you're going to check on not image, unless it's a static image. If you have a rigged thing or a pre-animated thing or whatever, you're going to click on Moho Object, and you're going to get, let me just kind of pull this over to where you guys aren't necessarily going through my underwear drawer. I guess it kind of doesn't matter. None of this is super vital at the moment. You're going to click, one of these pre-made, even if it's for a different animation, okay? You can have a library of stuff that you just make and save. I don't know what's going on with my computer. You can also have a library of stuff. You just like create a figure, save it off and leave it, put it in a folder wherever you want to, this is my skeleton guy. This is my whatever person. And you can bring them in, because I was working on some music videos for a person and she wanted me to use her same figure that we created for the first music video for the second and third one. And I can just go grab her and pull her in. Already pre-rigged and everything. Saves so much time. And let's just say I want to use her from this particular file. Well, there's a whole bunch of other junk in there, but this is a cool thing. When you open it, it's going to bring up a dialog box like so. Right now, this has something called layer 1, which is, I guess, had this line in it because I had to go ahead and add it. And then this one, well, this is a bad example because these are videos. Let me go show you a better one. Hang on one second. My bad. Let me find a different. So Moho object. When this comes up, I need to go find the. There we go. Let's just say animals. Okay. This is a shot that I did, and it has all these different things, these different groups or whatever, right? So this has a Jesus in it. It was a Christmas video. This has Joseph. This has Mary. This has a sheep. So you can see Jesus is this little tiny thing in the background here. This Joseph, he was sitting next to it. Let's try the sheep, which is here. If we wanted to use this sheep or this donkey, let's use the donkey. We want to bring this donkey into ours. You just deselect the ones you don't want to bring in. You select the ones you do. Right here, it's donkey. It's checked. We bring that in. You can check or uncheck all. Blah, blah, blah. And we say, okay, the donkey's going to come into this particular project, which is totally sweet. And right here, it's on its own bone layer and everything like it should be. And you can select the layer. I can, adjust the layer. It's got its origin point, etc. We've moved it though. And see what the thing is, you have to remember, it does bring it in where your playhead is. So right now it won't exist up to that point because that's the beginning of that layer. You can fix that if you accidentally do that by coming, let's say, back to frame 0. And you can say, where are we at? There should be a way to do this. You can set the layer beginning right here by going to, is it draw, bone, no, animation. I believe it's animation, set layer start time, boom. Now it'll move that layer back to that layer start time that you'd want it to be on. I suggest just being on frame 0, bringing it in on frame 0, then you can do whatever you want to with it. But now you have your character, and of course he's fully, animatable or whatever you need, because it's literally a, now you might have to fix things you have broken with it. This one has something broken with it, but you get the idea. So if that helps, you can bring in anything from a library, and you could create a library by, like, I could just take this donkey, delete everything else from here and say donkey, save it out as a new file. Anytime I want to use the donkey, you go to your little folder of animals or whatever you have and bring in donkey. Boom. Okay. I hope that helps. That's a beautiful animation right there. I don't know. It's psychedelic and Christmas time all at once. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of that layer. And another thing we asked about was setting up your bone layer, specifically doing setting up stuff. So you were making a skeleton and you made a bone for the chest. Let's say, I'm just imagining now, a bone for the chest and the back, right? And to me, I would put that on one layer. Let's say the chest and the back as kind of as one layer. You could do multiples, but you do it in a group, okay? And that group will now be your back, right? It's the lower spine and the rib cage. You don't need to put bones in it at that time. Do all of your artwork, set it up in the hierarchy that looks right, the way you're wanting to see it, and then you group all of your layers into a new layer called skeleton and make that your bone layer. Does that make sense? Let me show you the hierarchy of one of my own characters here, which will just show you the ease of doing that, the reason why I do that. You don't always have to do that because layers and bone layers, you can have 100 of them inside of a skeleton even if you want to. It's kind of unlimited, and that's up to the power of your computer, but you know what I mean. Let's just open up something that I've had kind of recently done. A lot of these are going to be somebody else's work, so let me go find one here real quick. Not going to open a recent because it's going to bring up a whole bunch of stuff, probably like dirty things and stuff. No, I'm kidding. Let me see. Let me just find something of mine that's not copywritten or anything weird like that. This might take me a second. I could just open up something that's not rigged and show you from there, but we don't want to spend 30 years rigging something. I don't know if that will work. I'm just looking for something really simple. I have a guy, my Simple John character that I've done. Let me see if I can find him real quick. Here we go. Let's open up Simple John. This is a guy that I made last year sometime. I was going to do, I think I did a tutorial on it. Totally lost the tutorial anyway, though. I don't know if you're still there, Greg, but if you look at my layers and whatnot here, I have one bone layer for the whole character. And in this bone layer, not only do I have his skeleton, but I've also got any bone control dials, all of that, because it's all just on the bone layer. You can do this differently, break it down differently if you want to for what may seem to be making it more simple. But in my opinion, you know, the years I've done this, it confuses me to go, what layer was that on? What did I mean by that? I'll just make Simple John right here the main, you know, layer. This is the, oh, and let me move my camera if I'm in the way here. I just realized that I do have that going on. Let me move my camera just to the center for the moment. Okay, and then you can see all of these layers here. Simple John, one bone layer for every bone in this character. And I'm not putting any bones on any other layers at all, except for the main bone layer. I don't know if that makes sense. All of my artwork is laid out in the proper order, you know, to look good and for things to move behind and whatever. And then now you have, you know, I don't know. There's got to be 100 layers at least in this guy. But it's just easier, in my opinion, to not make like a head and neck and then make a bone, a grouping out of that, and then make a bone layer out of that grouping, and then try to put that into another bone, you know, another hierarchy and stuff. It's just a lot of unnecessary work. So basically, I mean, I have all the artwork in order to where it looks good, and then I stick all of that in a group. The entire arms, legs, face, parts, everything, once your hierarchy is set up good for you, I put it in one group and I turn that into a bone layer, and that's when I start drawing my bones at the end, after all the artwork is set up and positioned in layers and stuff the way you'd want to do it. I hope that makes sense, because that way you're just always going back to the same bone layer for every movement you want to do, which makes it super fast. So if I want to move his arm, I grab his arm and I move it, move this, etc., etc. If I want his hand to turn, I've set up in here multiple hands. I should do a video on that, to where I've got like this hand left. When you right click it, he has all of these different hands you can pick from. So hand side, that one turns sideways on this one. This is for the hand left, my bad, it's the other one. And I go here and say, oh no, I want this to be in a fist. So now it's in a fist the other way, but you get it. That way, you know, when you lift it up or whatever, it can do what it needs to do. I hope that makes sense. You can select these. You can do it any way you want to, but I put them in a group and then I turn that into what's called a switch layer. And then now you can make all these other selections, you know, from that, what you need to do. Now to move the arm, I switch it on that group. I scroll back up, grab my bone layer again, and now I can move this however I need to. Let's say we go to frame 1. And I'm going to move that and say, oh, you guys, you dang kids, get off my lawn. And then we come back over here, and you know, you can move it again and so forth and so on. I'll explain other things later. You see a little warping, but it's easy fixable yet again on your bone layer with smart bones. This is what Moho really does well, is smart bones. And yes, I think everybody can use them. Even if you're doing frame by frame, smart bones are essentially, they can be control bones, but they can also be adjustment bones for bad posture or whatever. So we want to change his hand. So we just come back to hand left. We right click on it. We can say, oh, we'll pick hand side. And now he's going like that. Or we pick, you know, hand L and he's going like that. Whatever you want. So we can go, what's the matter you? Right? But to me, this is the smartest way to do it. I can go through it real quick here even. Let's do a new file. What the heck? I wasn't planning on this. Video is going to be too long probably. But let's just say I'm going to make I'm trying to think of the simplest thing I can illustrate this with, what we were talking about. Bone layers, right? So if you have a full person, I'm just going to make a silly full person out of like just some cubes and stuff. So we can start here with the leg. And of course, you know me, I'm going to do multiple layers for this. A leg, another layer for, let's say, and I'm just going to be real simple here, a body. And we're going to go with, you know, an arm. And we're going to, we could even duplicate these, but, you know, just for the fact that this is easy, I don't care. We can do our other arm here. I'm not going to do hands and stuff. And let's just say we have a neck. And we make another layer for a head. Okay? This is literally the fastest you could ever make something, obviously, very obviously. And we take our layer tool and move the layer over. You can see it's totally screwed because that's over here. This is something else we were talking about. So while I'm here, the rotation point is obviously off. You don't want that. And this is how you can animate without bones. You move your origin point to the part where you want it to rotate around. And then you go down to the neck, right? And you stick your rotation point, let's say at the root point of the neck you want it to bend from. You go down here to your arm, you change it to where that's going to bend from, and so on. I know you probably completely get this, but this is just a matter of changing thinking. I'm just putting all these root points at the part this is going to bend from. And then now if you wanted to break the leg up in multiple pieces, you can, and so on, that's fine. And obviously, I think this is pretty obvious, right? Now when you move the layer, you're going to rotate the layer. It's going to rotate from that point. So you can animate like this all day long. No bones, nothing, no points. But you can use point animation during this if you want. You know, like it's say at frame 1, you can have the leg, you know, set there. You go to frame, the next frame, you can go here and you go to the next frame and you pull this back down. Now, somewhere in between there, if you don't like the way it looks here, now you can animate the point, deselect everything, animate the point to change during that position. So it's correcting itself as it goes, and then it comes back down. Now, if it's not right here, it's because we've moved stuff, because there wasn't in the point animation a correction here for that frame. Easiest thing to do is to copy this frame and paste that frame there, and you can see that one goes back. We select that point now. Well, that was all of them, but we select that point now, and you can see we got the same issue. We would copy that frame and paste it back there. So his leg will come back, you know. Point animation, think about it separately, you know what I mean? Separately from layer animation and separately from bone animation. They can all work together, and they are 3 separate things that you can do all at the same time. So the power is like massive. Some people think, well, I'm going to point animate, so I can't do this. Not true. You can point animate, bone animate, and layer animate all at the same time, independently of each other. Super powerful. So anyway, once we have that kind of understood, as far as doing the bones, like I said, you have all of your artwork drawn. Let's say it's all laid out in the order. Now, this has no particular order, but you get the idea that it needs to be in. You want to do your skeleton, your bone stuff. You don't have to do a separate skeleton for, and I mean skeleton, but like a separate rig for head and neck. Or you don't have to do that. If there's a special reason to do that, more power to you. Do that. But I'm going to shift select all my layers. I'm going to right click on them, and I'm going to say group with selection, and we're going to call this, dude. Okay. Now you can of course move the whole dude around. I'm going to reposition my origin, which I highly suggest you do all the time for dude. You can put it at the base of his feet. You can put it at his midsection, whatever, but a logical place. When I select on the layer again, you're going to see it's only surrounding him. When it was put way out here, and I select on layer, you can see you got all this extra crap because it needs to compensate for where this is revolving around. Okay, it's got to compensate for this extra space here. So we'll just put that back on his midsection there. But while we have him selected, the main group, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go and click on convert to bone. This is now where we're going to add all of our bones, and I know you know that. for making bone layers. But if you make one bone layer for all of your bones, they're all parented. They're all easy to find. They all turn off and on when you select that layer. So if I was to select this layer, we're not going to see any of the other controls for any other layer except that head layer, right? When you select the dude, obviously it selects everything. But now that the dude layer is a bone layer, when you don't select this layer, all your bones vanish, which is great because you don't want to see a bunch of bones you're not going to be manipulating at that point. So with that selected, I'm just going to make a really quick skeleton here. The add bone tool. I'm going to go from the base of this guy. I'm going to actually give him a phallic bone, but that's actually a root bone to puppet the whole thing with, move it around. Kind of like you do if you move the layer, but this is for the whole skeleton. With that one selected, because everything's going to parent to it, we're going to come up here and make a couple of bones. Like so. Hopefully those are visible given his color. I probably want to go back and change his color so you can see the bones better. But anyway, I'm just going to come here and make a little neck bone and make a head bone. Quick tip to move back through your hierarchy, select your up or down arrows and you can click back through your skeleton real quick. So I'm going to go to the chest bone and I'm just going to make and we don't have to make multiple bones here, but you know, for the heck of it, why not? This will probably give me an opportunity to teach you guys how to do a little point animation here. But chest bone, I'm going to make 2 bones here for that. Up, 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 up. And now we have the root bone selected. And with that selected, I'm going to make 2 bones in each leg. So up, up, and just going to go boink and boink, up, up. Now we have the root selected. Obviously, nothing is parented though right now, I don't believe. So if I move the skeleton or any of the bones using the manipulate bones tool, well, I'm wrong. They are parented because these bones have strength. Okay, this is something I was explaining before too. Yeah, that bone is vulgar, but it's you can do anything you want to use that bone. It's just easier to tell that's the root bone for me too. It goes where the root chakra is, but it also it sticks out. You know, it's a handle for the guy, right? You can move that later if you want to, if it makes you feel weird. With the power turned on to all these now, when you move them, obviously they're going to bend parts. Like if we were to take this guy and manipulate, you're going to get it bending, but it won't obviously because the resolution of that part is really low, so there's no place for it to bend. But that's not necessarily what I'm referring to, what I'm bringing up for all this. But you can do that. Yes, you can move these bones and they will move because, you know, they're bending and they're working against each other like a standard hierarchy goes. If you don't want an attached bone, but you want it bound to something, you can either bind it to the layer or you can bind it to certain points of any layer or certain points of any number of layers. There's really not a limit to that. So if you want one bone bound to the top part of the head layer, and then you bind that same bone to, let's say, part of the points of the leg, when you move that bone, the top of the head that you had parented to will move, and so will that part of that leg. It's up to you however you want to do it, but this is the beauty of point binding versus standard layer binding, or binding the whole layer to the thing, or using this layer method that I know, Greg, you've been using a lot, where you put the bones in it and they automatically move the parts of that layer they're closest to given their strength. That is a good standard way of using it. But watch what happens if we come through here and we turn off, and I'm dragging the bone all the way to the left. It decreases its power to 0. Just make sure you don't have a little tiny bit left on it. Just drag them all the way to the left and their power turns down all the way to 0. And yes, you want the root bone to 0. Typically I do that anyway because it's really just kind of controlling the whole layer. But with all these bones set at 0, if you move them now, they won't do anything, right? The bones will move, but they will not control anything. So what you want to do now is parent them to points on the layer you want them to control. It sounds difficult. It's super freaking easy, okay? So what I'm going to do first to ensure that we have something to move is I'm going to add some more points to these layers, to these parts, so that when we move them, they don't just bend weird. So the neck I'm not worried about, but the arms we definitely want to break up just real quick. And you should probably do this when you're drawing them out, but you don't have to. Like I said, that's the beauty of Moho. You can go back and do this stuff at any time. So I'm going to use the add points tool. Weird that it's called that. It's because you're using it mostly to add points, either to draw a shape or to add points to a shape you already have. And I'm just going to make a couple of points here in the beginning. I'm just going to make this real simple. I'm just going to add 2 points in the center of both these arms. I used to add 2 points to the left of the haft and 2 points to the right of the haft where it felt like I had more control. Add as many as you need or don't need. And then now I'm going to go into the body here and do the same thing because I'd like a little more control over the body. And this is where I am going to do what I just said. I'm going to break this up with a couple of more points. This gives you more control along this line here. And then in the legs, I'm just going to give them a break pretty much in the middle of each leg here on each side. So just one here, one here. Right here, pretty much where the bone begins and ends. You want these broken up where your bones are going to break. Okay, so now that that's done, we go back to our bone layer. Look, now all of our bones are usable. All of them. This is why I said one layer. It's just smart. There are times where you don't need that or you want something to not be controlled by that. But anyway, so with that done, nothing's still going to move because we haven't bound anything to anything yet. But this is how you do it. It seems like a chore. It's absolutely not, I swear. So some layers are going to be completely controlled by the bone. Some of them are going to have other bones that are also going to influence them. This is how you do it. I'm going to, and you don't have to go to the bone layer to do this. I'm going to go straight to this head layer right here. There's 4 points here, but one of them you see is kind of in the same area of this bone. You choose which bones have the power of them. You choose which points are bound. Okay, it's all up to you. So right here we have our select bone tool again, because we have a section of bone tools within this layer, a layer selection. So you're going to go down to the bone tools there, select bone. We're going to select the head bone, and then we're going to right below that, and this is done in this order. You select the bone with the select bone tool. You select the bind points tool. Then you're going to select the points, and you can see that bone is selected because it's red. You're going to select the points, and I'm just going to select these 3 using lasso mode right here. I'm going to select those points I want to bind to that bone. Then you select bind points. Now those 3 points are bound to that bone. They're red, just like that red bone is. Now I'm going to go down here, and I want this bottom point to be bound to the neck bone. So it doesn't matter what layer it's in or what bone it is. When I'm in, let's say, layer 7, which is the head layer, I select what bone I want to bind it to. Then I come over here and select bind points, and then I select the point that I want to bind to that particular bone. I hope that makes sense. Now when I move the head, this last bone will only move if this neck bone moves. But these 3 here, which are bound to the head bone, will move when that bone moves. Okay? Hope this makes sense. Now, once again, let's move on. The chest bone here, I'm going to just make everything from the chest, I think, bound to the chest, not the chest, but the torso. So the top half of the torso is going to be that upper bone. And we're going to select the points we want associated with it. So we have to select the layer, which is not the neck, although we could make these bottom points bound to the chest, but I'm just going to leave those for now. We'd have to add more points to make it right. But let's go down to the chest, and which is going to be this guy right. Where are we at? Yeah, that one. And we're going to take that bone that we just selected with the select bone tool right here. Boom, this chest bone. And we're going to select the add points tool, or bind points tool, sorry. And we're going to select the points, which are going to be these top 4. We're going to say bind these points to that bone by clicking on bind points. See, they turn blue like that blue bone. If we select the select bone tool and select the next bone down, which is still going to affect the same layer, we select now the bind points tool, because we're going to bind points to that bone, and we select the bottom 4 points and say bind those points, boom, to that layer. So the top half of that layer is bound to the top bone, and the bottom half of the layer is, those points are bound to the bottom bone. You're choosing what points to bind to what bone no matter what layer it's in. And sometimes it could be multiple points of the same layer to multiple bones, or, you know what I mean? Or multiple layers bound to single bones or however you want to do it. So now what that means is, now the arms aren't going to move here, but if I select the manipulate bones tool and move these bones, you can see that you can start getting all your cool bending and whatnot because you're bound the points, not the layers. And these are for bones that have no power, no strength at all. So you're just simply point binding the points to those bones. It gives you a lot of freedom. It looks like I have something. Oh, the neck's just staying behind. Okay, so perfect. So now if you want to bind this neck just to that neck bone, it's totally simple. You would select the layer right here, the neck layer, and there's a little icon here called bind layer. You just click it automatically. Well, it doesn't automatically. You want to pick the bone now you want to bind it to. So I have that tool set up. I want to bind this layer. You can see the point selected. You can see I have the layer over here. You select which bone. That one. It turns a really, really thick line hardcore red. So now that whole layer, that whole neck layer is bound just to that bone with no bone strength. All the bone strength is turned off for every bone. Okay. You can do this in so many ways. It's cool. It's ridiculous. But so now when I move this, that neck is bound to that. When I move this, you can see obviously it follows because this bone's bound to that and those are bound to that neck bone, just like any kind of hierarchy is. But if I bend this head all the way, if it had more points, you'd see that the neck would stay completely bound. The head would stay completely bound to the neck at that point, just because we bound that bottom part of the jaw to this bone. So, I mean, with a much more complex character, this would look so much better. So with the arms, it's going to be the same thing. Let's just pick this arm here. And we're going to say, go over here and select the bone you want. I'm going to select this first one. And I'm going to do something interesting here, though. Let's select the chest bone first with this arm layer selected. And we're going to say bind points tool, because the chest bone is selected. And we're going to grab just these endpoints here. And we're going to bind those to the chest bone. Okay? You're like, why would you want to do that? That's for the arm. Well, when this arm moves now, those are going to stay rooted to the body. So now we're going to select our select bone tool. Grab the upper arm. We're going to select the bind points tool, and we're going to grab these ones in the middle. And we're going to bind those to that upper part of the arm with bind points. You can see the blue ones, these points here, are bound to the chest. These are bound to this arm. This is all within one layer. Now we're going to select the next bone down with the select bone tool. We're going to click on the bind points tool, and we're going to select the last two dots here, the last 2 points, and bind those to that forearm. And we'll say bind points, and we're good to go. If we go to the manipulate points tool, manipulate bones tool, and we move it, you're going to watch this shoulder. It's going to stay rooted to the body. See? And then we move the arm here. That works. Obviously, this could use some work, but you get the idea. That doesn't just break and pull away because these are rooted to the body. If you add more points, you can get much more better deformation, but you get the idea. I hope that helps a lot. I can keep going if you guys want me to break this guy down more and more and more. It's up to you. But if you have questions, go ahead. I'm here. I'm waiting. I'm ready. Okay, so now we'll go over to the other arm here and do the same exact thing. So we'll just select the bone. We want to select the chest because we want these guys to be bonded or bound to the chest bone. Select that bone, then we select our bind points tool. Then we select the points we want to bind to that selected bone, and then we click bind points. It's that easy. It's not a giant, it's just too much to think about. You get used to doing these steps in order, you know what I mean? So now go select the next bone, select the bind points tool, select these points, and click bind points. Then we select the next bone down, and and it's the concept that a lot of people kind of start to struggle with. This bone, then tell it what am I doing with this bone? Bind points. So I'm going to bind these points to the selected bone. It's already selected. Bind points. Boom, done. Okay, now you have both arms working the same exact way. You know, like I said, they move a little ugly, but you get the idea. If you click on frame 0, they snap back to their original position. Even if your playhead's on 0, I don't know. Some people will go, what am I doing? Always be on frame 0 for constructing something. And then, like I said, if you click on frame 0, even if you're already on it, it'll snap back to the default state of everything. Once again, legs. These are obviously in odd positions. This one's way up into the body. This one's not. You can fix this super easy by going to your bone layer, because that's where your bones live. All of your bones on this particular one bone layer for this one character. It doesn't have to be, but this is the way I like to do it until I need something super extra. Quadruped, yes, I have, and I will show you. We can make a quadruped kind of out of this if you want to in a second. What are you specifically asking about? Is it about the IK or something? Because I can show you that too here in a second. If you've never worked with root bones, or I'm sorry, target bones, I can show you how to do that. So in this case, this bone is shorter than the other one. I don't like that, so I'm going to go grab not the manipulate bones tool, because manipulate bones just moves them around, right? The transform bone moves the bone and not necessarily the layer of the artwork. This is how you can adjust your bones to get them to fit right and stuff. So I'm going to grab, and you can see when I go over this bone, I get this plus. That means I can move it or transform it. I move it in the middle, and this now can be rotated, and I move it to this other one, the one at the end of the bone, and this. But I'm going to move this bone up to match the other leg. So I'm going to move this one here and put it where it goes, okay, somewhere, and it'll try to snap if you have your snapping turned on. So I'm just going to put it about here. I'm not trying to snap it to that other bone, but I guess it's going to by default. Let me just pull this down a little bit to grabbing that particular point. There we go. Like that's fine. All right, so now I want to readjust these bones, because now that I move the whole thing up, it's obviously too high. So few things you can do is I'm just going to grab the scale of this one now and pull it down. You can see it's about as long as it needs to be, but now it's overlapping the other bone. Select the other bone, grab the transform of that one and pull it down, let it snap to the end of the other one, and you're back to where you need to be. Simple. All right, so let's go ahead and bind these real quick, and then I'll show you guys how to do target bones, because those would, if you were doing a quadruped, would come into play like hardcore, okay? Let me go ahead and get to that real quick. So let's go ahead and get back to the bone layer. We're going to deselect our little bone, that particular tool, and on frame 0 once again, and we're going to make sure we're on our bone layer. Something was not popping up here. I'm going to select, oh, I'm sorry, we have to select the actual layer we're on. My bad. So I want to select the leg that we're trying to affect here and adjust right here. Let's use this leg first, I guess. And I'm going to make sure that my points that I want to bind to the chest, or the butt of the body or whatever. Yeah, I actually do live streams really regularly. If you look, there's a whole bunch of my live stream in my live folder, or whatever you call it, section of the YouTube page. And it's for different things, and I'm trying to do a lot more produced videos as well, to where they're specifically about something. It's got a little intro, maybe some music, and then I go into a particular thing. Edited videos, I guess is what I mean. But specifically for this though, let's select the bone using this select bone tool, and then we're going to select bind points. So this is the thing. If you switch on this, if you select the select bone tool and you switch over to the bind points tool, it doesn't deselect your bone. You would need to select the bone that you're going to work with first, and then when you select on bind points, it leaves that bone selected. So I think a lot of people get confused with that. All right, so now that I've got that bone selected, I can select the points, and I can say bind these to that bone. However, in this regard, I think I was wanting to have these bound to the body or the root bones. We're not gonna select this bone. I'm gonna select the root bone here. And then I'm going to select bind points. I'm going to bind these two first ones to the root bone. That way when the leg moves, they kind of are attached to the body and not necessarily to this thigh bone. The next ones, though, will attach to the thigh bone, because that's going to be pretty much where the thigh bone is piloting the rest of the leg. So we're going to select the select points or select bone tool. We're going to select the bind points tool here and select these points right here. I know they're hard to see because my lines are green and the background's white, but just trust me. You click bind points. We're going to select the next bone down with the select bone tool, and then select the bind points tool, select the points we want, and bind points. We're just going to do the next leg real quick. Same thing. Oops, I'm just going to select the root bone, and we're going to select the bind points tool, grab the points we want, and click bind points. I'm going to go and select the thigh bone here. I'm going to select bind points tool, select the points of the knee, bind points, and next the next bone, the bind points tool. It's harder to say than it is to use. And then select the points I want, and then bind points. So I think the thing that freaks people out to some degree is when you are selecting these, you're like, why am I selecting these? What about, aren't these supposed to be bound to that bone? It seems like it. If you move that bone and you would want these points to move with that, then do that. But I want them to be connected to the body and not break away, let's say. So you can see as he moves, the leg is moving the points that it's needing to, but it's leaving these bound to the root, you know, to where it stays with the body. That's the only reason why I've done that. Now this next thing is, it's been pony rig, and put target bones on it. Yeah, it is, and a lot of things can depend on really simple mistakes or just not knowing certain things. One thing about those the target bones, is a lot of people will put them on a leg that's like perfectly straight. And then when you go to move it, your leg's flopping backward and forward in all kinds of random directions. If you put a tiny bend in the bones before you target the leg, that way it's most likely going to move in the one direction. You know, like if the knee bends this way, you don't make a straight leg and then bend it and try to animate it from there. You bend the leg, get all of your rigging done, and then when you put the target and you move that target, the leg should continue to bend that way. If it's a straight leg, you can have a lot of problems with that. I don't know if that helps, but let me show you how you would sort that just in a regular upright person. The legs here are perfectly straight. If I were to add target bones now, I couldn't determine which way, left or right, that these are going to bend. If I kind of wanted them both to bend sort of outward, like if he crouches, his knees both go out, you'd put this bend sort of pre-built into the leg a little. And the way I would do that is I would go to my bone layer, and I would not use the manipulate bones tool here. I would use the transform bone, and I would just rotate this one a little out and rotate this one a little back in. Now there's enough of a bend here that it'll naturally try to bend that direction when you do the initial bend of those, like if you squat or something. Anyway, let me show you now. He doesn't have feet. Maybe I should add feet, but it's fine. It'll do the same thing without. You just can't do this other part of it, but it's fine. That's the simple stuff. To add a target bone to this, you want to make sure you're not selecting any bones at all. You're going to add a brand new bone, and that's a huge thing. People have a bone selected and added. Why doesn't this work? And I'm just going to add a bone about where I know it's going to the controller handle should be right there. I'm going to name it though. Huge that you name your bones. I'm going to call this target right. So that one is called target right. You're going to deselect, tap on your screen, using the select bone tool, deselect everything. You're going to add a new bone and put it where you want the other handle to be. Let's say here, and immediately name that target left, left. The reason why I say name it right away is because if you get into this, it's already hard enough, and you get into it and you are frustrated about finding the bones and blah, 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 you're just going to give up and you won't learn it because you have all these other stumbling blocks in your way. This is a good way to not have those issues. Name your bones. Matter of fact, right now I'm going to go in, I'm going to name these shin bones. So I'm going to put shin right. And this other one here, I'm going to name shin left. I'm not going to make a joke that I always make. All right. And we have the shin right, the shin left, and the left and right targets. That's all you need to do. You're going to select this bone. You want to make a target. Let's say the left target bone. And you're going to come into bone constraints. I'm making sure, okay, I have this wrong. You're going to select the shin bone first. Shin left. You're going to select target, and you want that to be target left. This is why you name them. Close. Now you can see there's a little tiny target next to this bone right here that tells you it's the target. Let's do the other one first. We'll grab the shin right, go to bone constraints, come down to where it says target, click target right. It's that simple. You're done. Believe it or not. Now you also want to turn the power or the strength off of both the target bones. You don't want power. So right here at your bone strength, just go and drag it all the way to the left till there's no power or strength left on that, because otherwise it'll warp your artwork out and stuff. So now you go to manipulate bones and you pick that up and move, and now you've got a target bone perfectly fine. And see, 99% of the time, that's going to not bend the wrong direction, because when it's straight now, it's just going to still have the tendency to bend that way. You can force it to break, but it's very hard to do. But most of the time it will continue to bend the way you sort of see. That one accidentally did break, but most of the time, and this one's going to make a liar out of me, isn't it? Most of the time anyway, it's going to bend the right way. If you do have a problem with this, click frame 0 and just put more of a bend in those bones with your transform bone tool. I'm just going to move that out just a little more and a little more. And you can remove this bone, not remove it, but remove it to where you have that angle better. It's going to make you think, oh, but it's going to animate weird. Nope, still looks great. You just have, okay, that one accidentally made a liar out of me again, dag nabbit. I don't know why that is the truth, but you get the idea. If you pull it too far down, it will, but you're going to get a lot less of that problem having that naturally done as it continues to make a liar out of me. Hopefully that will help to some degree. So with that, there's your target bones, et cetera, et cetera. I know this is a really silly rig, but a horse is just going to have what? You can put like an extra joint. I think their knees, they just have a longer foot, right? It's pretty much the same thing. But your target bones are just going to go from the ankle, the same thing. You're just going to have 4 of them. The hardest part about a horse is the animation, not the rigging. That's what I've... do you have anything specific that you need to ask me about that, though, why you're having such a hard time? Because jittery on the bone constraints. Yeah, I mean, that's one way you don't get the bend in the right direction. And depending upon what you mean by jittery, I don't know if it's a frame rate thing or if you're animating on 1s, 2s, or 4s, or 3s, whatever. Or if, I'm trying to think what else might be causing something like that. But yeah, if it's the bone movement, the constraints and that's where I would go check that out. Here in frame 0, we just go into our bone, select then bone constraints. You can constrain how far it bends with this angle constraints. Now, if you had feet, even though these target bones are coming from the shins, which is where you generally want them for like a biped, I think also for a quadruped, the shin is targeting the target bone. The foot moves by itself, but unless you click this independent angle, the foot will look like it kind of moves with the leg and can't move independently of itself. Click independent angle. Now the foot can move whatever direction you pose it while you're still able to animate the rest of the thing. So yeah, if the constraints are snappy, yeah, it's probably got to do with your bone placement and also the constraints. Now, if you go with angle constraints, which is something I suggest, all of your bones, I'm just going to click. I think I can do multiples at the same time. I'm not sure. Let's do one bone at a time. Like this shin bone. Bone constraints, if you come in here and click on angle constraints, this will set how far the bone can bend in one direction or another. So if you don't want, like this guy can't kick forward, let's say his knee can't bend backwards, if you adjust this to where it can only bend so far, you'll never get that accidental bend. And if you adjust the other one as far as you want it, like if he wanted to sit Indian style, you could do that. So the next one here, you do the same thing. Turn on your angle constraints and set your plus and minus, how far you allow it or not. And then you close it. And then now when you move those bones, they can't move no matter what I do. There's no way this is ever going to bend backwards the wrong way now. And I can make it go all, this way. You know, granted, the artwork's screwing up, but that's the resolution. I could add more points and it would work. But you get the idea. It can go that far because that's where the limit was, I said. This one can't go the wrong way either. And it only goes as far as that limit. And you want limits on your joints. especially when it comes to, like, say something like a horse. It can't bend its legs backwards. You know, you want limits. You know, so definitely set those angle limits, and you'll probably have tons of less problems. Anything, you guys ever use smart bones? Because if you have, I can show you a couple things on that as well real quick. Because I've got this situation here where I bend this leg and look how it goes weird and flat when it moves, like a ribbon. If you don't want that, then your best friend is going to be what we call smart bones. And to set those up back here, I'm going to get rid of any keyframes I have here. Frame 0, I want to be able to move his leg to bend. And let's just pretend these constraints aren't here, but they are. But when I bend this lower bone, let's say, you can see how it gets curvy and weird. And I want that leg to be, you know, leg shaped, straight, right? So to do that, I'm going to have to make what's called a smart bone, or create a smart bone out of this lower leg. So clicking on that bone back in frame 0 here, I'm going to have that highlighted. I'm going to come up to the bone menu and scroll down until it says, we don't want to dial, where am I at? Am I not on my bone layer? Hang on, I've done something funny. And it might be because I have that constraint. I don't think so, but I'm going to double check. That is there. That is listed. That is good. We can make an action, but I want to make a, you know, let's make an action out of it. It's what smart bones are for. It's just not a two-way smart bone. I'm just going to check and see if I missed something real quick. No, let's just use the action for it right now. It's because I have limits on it. It's going to let me move it only one way anyway, so it won't allow me to make the two-way smart bone. So with the one way, it's called an action. So we select our bone. We come over here to this tiny little thing, new action, which is totally hidden. Most people don't know about it, so they don't use it. And I think it's the major, one of the biggest powers of Moho. Click on new action, and you name it. Now it should say the name that you have of that bone. This is another reason you have to name your bones. If it does give you the right name, you're good to go. And when I click OK, it's going to come up with a new blue timeline at the bottom. It's a temporary timeline that you're in for the action only, okay? It'll make sense in a second. So I'll click on OK. I'm in that blue timeline. You set how many frames this will be, and it's just kind of like an amount of frames arbitrary that you want it to take to move from here to here. It's not true time in your animation. This is just to give you space to put in some keyframes if you need it and stuff like that. So as I move this over, I'm just going to move it up to say like frame 48. I don't need any more frames than this to make this happen. And I'm going to move that on frame 48, and then I'm going to tell right here on the transform bone where I want my bone to be turned at this frame 48. This is not within your animation, it's just within the action. Keep that in mind. So I click on transform bone, and I'm going to move this bone. Don't worry, the target bone won't move. It doesn't need to, and you don't want it to, but it's just going to bend the leg. And you can see it's all warped when this bone is at its full position that way. We need to correct this. So you notice at the bottom we've created a keyframe. Now if I move the playhead back and forth, you can. It moves back to 0 and it moves to 48. This shows the movement of the bone. When the bone is straight, in this position it looks like this. As the bone moves more, it's going to look like this at the end of its movement, right? It's not truly time. We're just separating this out in frames to kind of describe the action better. We can add keyframes in between this too, which is really cool. So it can look different at certain times of that rotation. I hope that makes sense. But on frame 48, when it's all wonky like this, I'm going to go over here and select the layer of the leg, which will be that one here. And you can see, the shape, hopefully it's green, but you can see kind of the points where they're at and so forth. And you can fix this because this is a keyframe now that we're going to create for this layer. So at this frame 48 we have here, we're going to move our points with the transform point tool to a better position at that point. So I'm going to make sure I click off of everything, and I'm only going to move the points that I want to move. So say like this. Now when I go and say it creates a keyframe again, when I move this now, you can see here when I move it back, my leg is in the position that it started in, and the points are. And when I move this, we're caused a point animation, and I'm moving this back and forth. This is all manual. I'm not hitting the playhead. Don't do that. And when I move the playhead, you can see at frame 48, it looks like this. But let's say it was sort of off in the middle, maybe too thick. So I'm going to go to, like, I don't know, around 24. And I'm going to pull this back a little bit more to where it kind of keeps the same thickness. It makes another keyframe. So at frame 24, it looks like that. When it's back here, it looks like that. When it's frame 24, it looks like that. When it's up here, it looks like that. And let's say this one just looks too wide and thick and weird. Well, you can tell it's your curvature. You can either pull the handles or click over here on your curvature tool. And you can click and drag on the center here to kind of lessen the amount of curvature. I actually moved that way too much. Like I said, you could do the left and right. You could do them both together. And then, of course, once again, you can go over to your Move Points tool and drag that around to, to look the way you want it to. You can see that created a keyframe for the curvature and for the point animation. So you have keyframes for both those things. So now when I move my playhead back, you can see there, that's at that position here. At frame 24, it looks like this, which we could go ahead and, if you wanted to, adjust the curvature and all this again using the curvature tool. Make it have less curvature a little bit, there. If they are put on the wrong frame, you can still just click and drag them and overlay. They can be moved around and they can override each other and everything. But you move this back down and see back at frame 0, it's straight again where it was. And now as you move it, so you're basically creating a little animation within your animation to make sure that it's the motion you're going to do is going to work. And this is a corrective animation for the bone, not an actual animation. It's just for whenever this bone moves this way, it's going to essentially animate over a series of about 48 frames, let's say, to correct itself as it moves from this position to the final. So that would be our action, our shin left action for moving that shin bone. To get out of this, you go either double click on main line here. Well, because we only have one action, you would want to double click on this little main line title, and you'll come out of that little action timeline back into your regular timeline. Now, if you move along the timeline, nothing happens because there's no animation. That was specifically to control the animation or the corrective animation of that bone for when it moves. So back on our bone layer, if I was to move this now with the Manipulate Bones tool, you can see that now when I move it, it corrects itself all along the way. If I move the other one, it's going to be ugly like it used to be, right? Really bad. But you can go make another action for this bone as well, and then they're perfectly done. If you don't like the way the top bone is working, that's still from the movement of this lower bone mostly. But you can see as I move it, though, it's actually moving this bone because it's in a hierarchy. So as that bone moves, that one's jacking up, the top part. The way we fix that is just do an action for that upper bone as well. Now, the lower bone's only going to have one direction it can go because we set those limits. It can only go inward. This bone here can move upward, inward and outward. So we're going to make two actions to correct that one. Does that make sense? Yeah, but smart bones are like the most amazing thing. And you can use a smart bone as a control for something. So if you wanted your eyes to blink and you didn't want to have to animate an eyelid every time and a lower eyelid just to get one blink, you can make a dial, a separate bone that's not connected to anything else. And you can say that when the bone's this way, the eyes are closed, and when the bone's this way, the eyes are open. And then that way you don't have to animate the lids themselves separately. You go in one time, create an action that goes from, say, 0 to frame 48. And on frame 48, you move all your points around to where the eyes are closed, the way you want them to look when they're closed. And that way when you come back out, every time you move that bone, they close, they open, they close, they open, like a puppet control. And it's the only way I can animate over a long period of time, because if I had to go through, and I'm not a frame-by-frame animator, if I had to go through and do that every little movement, everything frame by frame, I would just quit. So smart bone dials, that's the difference with those. Those are like the controls. You can use those to control everything from, blinking eyes, moving mouse. You can make one that goes across a range, and every time it hits a certain point, it changes the shape of the mouth that you already have preset. Amazing things you can do with them, though. But the smart bones usually are meant for like corrective things. So when the bone's in this position, it's really whacking out the leg. You adjust it, and now every time that bone moves, it moves correctly. That's the initial points of them. But you can make them do anything you want, absolutely. And I think they can even change colors, textures, and stuff like that too. You can make them swap out almost anything. And I think there's special scripts for more advanced things like that. Which I'm not a big scripting guy, so I'll use a script once in a while if it exists already, but I rarely even do that. I'll use scripts for things like making it snow or rain if I don't feel like but you can make all of your own custom raindrops and all that kind of stuff and replace the default ones. And then anytime that you need snow or rain, you just have that script, and you don't have to sit there and create a whole new series of rain and all that stuff can double as other things. Like you make the raindrops reddish orange and stuff. Now they're lava drops or fire or whatever you want. So that's cool. I'm just trying to think what else I can just kind of show you real quick before I go. But I think that's a lot in one video. Like I said, this fixes this portion of the leg. It doesn't fix the top portion. We could go ahead and just do that to show the complete leg real quick. So I'm just going to select the upper bone now with the bone select tool. Select the upper leg. This one does not have a name. It's okay. And we're just going, we're not using it for a target bone or anything, so I'm not really having to refer it so much. But we know it's going to be B12. We just need to make sure it's the right bone that we have selected. I'm also going to make sure we're on frame 0, and we have that bone selected, and we're going to click New Action. Now we're going to need to make a new action for each bone, but that's if we do single actions here. Let me show you another way. It may not work because we have the target bone. I'm just going to check and see real quick. So bone, yeah, no, we can't because we have it connected to a chain of the target bone. So don't worry about it. So we'll go back to new action. These will have to be two separate ones. B12 is what we want. We say OK. And we have that little timeline pop up. We're going to move over to frame 48, which is how long I've chosen myself to have this take. And we're going to move our bone using the transform bone tool. And I'm just going to say when this moves this way, you can see how badly that folds. We're going to fix that. So we drop down to the layer we want to fix, which is our leg layer. On frame 48, which we're still on, we're going to grab our transform points tool, and we're going to make sure we don't have anything clicked so we don't accidentally move any. And I'm going to flip this point up like so, to where we get a nice, shaped leg as it goes up. Just like that. Stupid simple. Okay, that one's done. That's it. Oh, something very, very important. Your animation is going to look like crap unless you do this, and I forgot to tell you. These keyframes within this animation, this little action animation, you want these linear. Right now they're set to smooth by default. I wish they were automatically set to linear because that's 99% of the time what you're going to use. You just highlight them like a marquee select, highlight, change this little drop down to linear. That way they won't look like they speed up and slow down every time they're moved. Unless that's what you want. Typically you don't within an action. So I'm going to go back to this shin L, the lower leg one. And I'm just going to select all of its keyframes, and I'm going to switch that over to linear. That way they'll look right when they move. And then we can hit mainline, double-click mainline, and it will leave that. Now, we don't have the action for it going in, so we need to make sure that we go back to our bone layer. And with that one selected, we're going to click on Create a New Action. It'll automatically know the bone, and it'll create a second action for B12. Right now we have B12. It's going to probably make it as B12-2. So B12-2 right there. We'll say OK. We get that timeline. I'm going to pull it over to about 48. It's a nice short little amount of time to sort it out in. Transform bone, and we're going to swing this one this way. You can see how it flattens out again. It's hard to see because there's no outline yet. I'm going to click on the leg. We can see that outline is all jacked. I'm going to grab my transform points tool and just move that point up to where, it looks pretty normal. We can double check how that's going now. Right in the middle, it gets pinchy and weird right about there. So I'm just going to grab it and pull it out a little bit, and you can see it makes another keyframe that corrects for that amount of, that place and time. I'm going to select all of these points here by marquee selecting them, and I'm going to click and drop down to linear. We want those motions or actions, keyframes, to be linear. When you're done, just go back to the main line, double click, and now when we move any of this stuff, because we're going to be using it with that control bone at the bottom, I manipulate the control bone here, and you can see the whole leg now does not work correctly. Cool. I don't know why. My favorite. Yeah, this stuff happens. I'm not sure why it didn't take. It says the actions are there, but it's not working. Oh, I do know why. All right, so on frame 0, it's not going to work like it does during animation. So you have to test this on any other frame, like between 1 and a billion, whatever. So we go to frame 1 and now tested it, and it does work like your actions were. They're made to work between frame 1 and beyond. So sorry about that. Let me just go back here to the bone layer and show you. So don't be on frame 0 when you test these. And you can see now that it works the way you meant it to. So they don't bend and warp and flop. If you wanted to straighten this out during this time period, you could do so. If you get outside of the range that you set this to be corrected for, again, because we didn't plan for it to go that far, just about that far. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've got. You can see how bad this one is because we didn't do any correction. This one we did, quite a bit of correction. So yeah, yes. If you ever have problems with this, like my controls don't work, test it on frame 1 or beyond. Frame 0 is for building. Anything involving the animation, test it on all the other frames. Okay, cool. All right, I think that's it for today. I need to go probably relax and meditate and run around the block about 6 miles like I do every day. I'm totally lying, by the way. I am probably not as healthy as I could be, given that I need to be doing that more. And I hope my camera was in the right place for this stuff. I usually have to move it around during this, but yeah, throwing the computer, definitely not a recommendation, although I have almost done that with multiple things. I have a big, giant setup here. I don't know what I can show, but this is a full, essentially kind of a good-sized kind of recording studio setup here for doing. I do a lot of music. I do a lot of animation. I do a lot of filmmaking and stuff like that. So I have this sort of, it's in my house. It's a big, giant desk with a cloud over the top and everything. It's great. But I've done this for a long time, and I've been doing a lot of animation lately. And yeah, Moho is the best. It is simply the best. Animate has so many limitations as far as I'm concerned. So does, TV Paint, Harmony. I am not a fan of subscription models, even though there's some I just have to pay for. And so, yeah, all that. Cool. Yeah, this is all on PC, too, that I'm using as well. I'm Mac's great. I have an iPad. I have an iPhone. But as far as working on a computer, I like PC. There's more software available. I just understand it better as well, Granted, more viruses, I know. But cool. All right, so that's it. I think I'll go for now. I'll come back with some good stuff. Maybe I'll break down some of this stuff in an actual edited video, maybe one little piece at a time. That way people don't get lost in an hour-long video kind of thing. Been going for an hour and a half. I think that's plenty good. And yeah, thanks for watching. And definitely thanks for interacting, all you guys. And cool. All right, have a good one.